We have to find Mom and Dad, stop the bad guys, and save the world.
So let's do it.
Wait, hold on. Wait, is this what I think it is? Oh my goodness,
Robert.
It is. It sure is. The Mandalorian 7. Spy Mandalorian.
Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Yeah, I'm Brian Brushwood. Most importantly, I did not expect to see the words Robert Rodriguez, the name that I associate most with certain things that I love very, very much, like the Predators franchise and so on, but also things I don't love so much, like everything he's done on The Mandalorian. Bryce, how should I feel about what we just saw?
Well, how do you feel about the Spy Kids franchise?
Actually, pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
that's you know what?
It's hard to
Actually,
beat.
really good.
It's hard to beat that. Well, guess what? It's back. A new Netflix film, Spy Kids Armageddon, is streaming on September 22nd. It is Robert Rodriguez. He's back. And there are new kids, and they need to save the day because the parents can't do it themselves. Something like that. So, hey, more Spy Kids. You can't beat... It's a great premise. Kids want to be spies as well. Let them be spies.
Yeah, they're little spies.
Yeah.
So are dogs.
Yep.
Are you against using children for espionage, Brian?
Oh, no. Give me 20 seconds. What I wanted to talk about is the fact that we discovered that there's a fox that's moved in on our territory, and we're very excited because there was a rattlesnake discovered on our territory, and all I could think of is that now we have a night patrolman. Like, I'm annoyed by the fact that all the motion alerts show a fox running around our territory, and I'm like, take that, rattlesnake. And I Googled, do foxes eat rattlesnakes? And they do. Good.
And that is our real Texas stories segment of Cordkillers today. I love that. That's awesome, man. That reminds me, I saw a possum with two little baby possums on her back out in the backyard the other day when I was picking up the trash.
I definitely saw 5 raccoons crawl underneath the scam stuff.
Yeah. Animal stories. You know what? They're not relevant to killing the cords.
I saw a horse.
Everybody loves them.
Wait, what?
No.
Where? Okay.
No, it's on TV.
Yeah, on Barbie.
All right, fine. Let's move on to the primary target. So when the writers went on strike, apparently nobody cared about any of this. But now that the actors are on strike, we got a whole bunch of rules about what people are allowed to do. Promoting things, if you're in the union, right? If promoting things is not allowed, that's why actors aren't doing interviews or what's called junkets about their upcoming movies. On an FAQ about the strike, the union addressed the topic of podcasts. Again, for the union members, obviously, it says you can't go on a podcast to promote work that falls under a union contract. Podcasts aren't exempt from that. That also includes work from the past. So what about rewatch podcasts? You know, like, I don't know. Let's say you did a show called Spoilerin Time. SAG-AFTRA clarified rules to The Verge on rewatch podcasts. Here's what they said. Rewatch podcasts are considered promotional. Hosts should honor any pre-existing contracts, but if a contract is not involved, they should not promote struck work, past or current. Guests appearing on podcasts should not promote struck work under any circumstances. Again, this is for members of the SAG-AFTRA union. Existing TV rewatch podcasts under a contract are a form of promoting struck work. They can, however, continue to publish new episodes during the strike because they're under a contract. The union is not telling their members to break contracts. New contracts for rewatch podcasts and rewatch podcasts not under a SAG-AFTRA contract are off limits. You shouldn't start one that is outside. Again, if you're a union member, you are free to continue hosting your podcast that is signed to one of our agreements. But if you are able to pivot your show away from the promotion of struck work, we strongly encourage you to do so. What about non-union podcasters? Any non-member seeking future membership in SAG-AFTRA who performs covered work or services for a struck company during the strike will not be admitted into membership in SAG-AFTRA. Now, this is one of those things that I think is getting stretched, and I don't think the union minds that people are stretching it. But what they're actually saying is if you perform work or services for a struck company. In other words, NBC pays you to do a podcast and you're not a member of the union, they will not like that if you apply for union membership in the future. But a lot of people are taking that and saying, well, that also means these other rewatch podcasts and old things. And SAG-AFTRA is not saying that. They're saying work or services for a struck company. So I think, Brian, that this is getting a lot of confusion out there, because there's also the whole YouTube influencer thing where, once again, there are many people who do YouTube shows who are working members of SAG-AFTRA, and SAG-AFTRA represents them with agencies and such. And so there are rules being created for influencers regarding the strike about what branded deals they can take because they're members of the union, that don't necessarily apply to non-union influencers. And this idea that, like, well, you shouldn't take work for the struck companies is starting to get blurred. And a lot of non-union members are saying, well, maybe I shouldn't do that stuff either, because I might want to become a member of the union, where the union isn't actually saying you can't do that. They're not even implying that you can't do that, but they're letting other people imply it. And that's where I'm going, Brian, is it feels like the bigger issue, and I've talked to several people who are in this world, is not violating one of SAG-AFTRA's rules and then not getting in the union someday. It's being perceived as violating the rules, even if you aren't, and having a bunch of people in public start calling you a scab and coming for you.
For some reason, the phrases hard power and soft power come to mind. Like, hard power would be you are part of this club and the rules of the club are you will and you will not do these things. That's hard power. Soft power would be, I don't know, seems like you belong in this club. Would be a real shame if you weren't able to be in this club. Am I off base on this first?
I would add a third category, right? There's, hey, members of the club, you're not allowed to do this. Then there's what you just said of like, hey, not members of the club. If you do these very clear things, we're not going to look kindly on that if you want to become a member of the club later. Then there's not members of the club, and the union isn't talking to you, but a bunch of other people on the street are going, hey, I don't know, that looks like a bad thing, and you shouldn't do it. So because I support the club.
Let's call it hard power, soft power, and the aura of power, right?
Hey, I like that. I like the aura.
Right?
Yeah.
So hard, soft, and aura. Hey, Bryce, are you a member of SAG or AFTRA?
No, but I am a part of BMI.
Okay, all right, on the music side. Hey, Tom, are you a member of SAG and or AFTRA?
No, but I am a former member of the American Federated State, County, and Municipal Employees Union.
I don't know if you guys
Hey, Brian,
know.
are you in SAG and or AFTRA?
I am a member of AFTRA.
Mm-hmm.
And I give this many F words to what they say I can and cannot talk about.
So you give 2. Oh, interesting.
Two on different hands. This is look, I understand the game of brinksmanship that is being played right now. And I understand that people, according to economists, there is a U-shaped curve to unions. The early beneficiaries are people who, let's say the starry-eyed talent that goes to Hollywood and just wants to get into a union. Oh my God, I'm so happy I'm in this union. I have a steady paycheck or whatever. And then they descend down to, well, I'm glad that even though none of my shows have made it or whatever, they're at the bottom part of the U. And then you have your Steven Spielbergs and so on who are killing it so hard and they feel like they owe their success to the union to begin with. I don't blame a single player in this game for anything they're doing. Every action makes sense. I don't mind the hard power. I don't mind the soft power. The aura power does bother me. Am I alone in that?
No, I'm with you there, because if I were a member of SAG-AFTRA, and I were promoting Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and that would help Paramount by me promoting that, I'm working against my own interests. I'm trying to get a better deal out of Paramount. And so as a member of that union, I shouldn't be doing things that helps them while I'm a member of the union. That makes perfect sense to me. The soft power of like, hey, maybe don't go on Paramount's shows and promote Star Trek Strange New Worlds with them if you want to be a member of SAG-AFTRA. I can see why later someone would be like, hey, we were very clearly trying not to promote this stuff and you went and promoted it and now you want to be a member of the union. I get where that's something that is an advisory thing. I think it's being exaggerated, and I think the union doesn't mind that it's being exaggerated about who can say what, and that brings us to the aura, which is a lot of people who aren't in the union. Now, there are people who are in the union saying this, and I feel differently about them, but people who aren't even in the union telling other people who aren't in the union that they should or shouldn't be doing this or that, that is not what the union is saying people shouldn't be doing. For example, last week, Microsoft put out Xbox controllers that smelled like pizza and said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on them. I know for a fact there are people not in the union who didn't review those controllers, which SAG-AFTRA would not have had a problem with non-union people reviewing Xbox controllers because they were worried that people in their audience would go, hey, that says Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on it. You're a scab. And so they didn't review it, which to me, that seems like it's going too far.
Well, so we don't necessarily need to decide the exact lines of demarcation, right? But what does your gut say about this phase? Because it is ugly and it's about to get uglier. I firmly am like, the only reason I joined AFTRA was because I was told it was the only way I could be on Steve Harvey's Big Time. And the only benefit I've ever gotten out of it is the fact that I got paid $800 for the second time I went on The Tonight Show. That's it. When I went to look for health insurance, nothing. You don't do enough work or whatever. Also, at the same time, I was like, well, does that mean I can't show up on The Daily Show? And they said, no, everybody does that. Don't worry about it. Nobody cares. So there are some people who perceive that as an influencer, if you don't play ball now, you'll never make it into SAG or AFTRA. I don't know that I believe that threat. I don't find it very credible.
You're probably right. In practicality, there's not a big database where they're going down and writing everyone's name and they're going to cross-check it every time someone. If you do something egregious, they'll remember you. But yeah, I feel like the bigger problem for creators who aren't in the union, again, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but I'm going to keep repeating it. Like, when you're talking to the members of the union, totally different conversation. But people who aren't in the union being told by other people who also are not in the union not to do stuff it's just a fact of the modern age, right? That is an aspect of the strike that we didn't have in the last strike, of this widespread, a small number of people can be very loud and sound like a large number of people. And so it doesn't take that many of them to really cause a chilling effect that, again, I don't think SAG-AFTRA minds too much because it helps increase the pressure and increases their bargaining position, which is what they should want. But also, I don't think it's helping that much. And I don't think it's something they would want to happen if there was no other reason, right? I don't think they would be going after folks the way the public is going after.
Well, and I think Scooper Nova Girl in the chat has a really good point. She was asking, so no residuals for when I did National Geographic's Hacking the System. That was an unscripted reality show, which means it was not a part of SAG or AFTRA or the WGA, and so
is that because you were not acting, so it's not you're well, I mean, theoretically this is you're being Brian Brushwood.
Are you being fooled right now?
Let's all assume that everything was totally unscripted.
Well, but you know what I mean. Like there are rules for like, oh, you're just going to go on and be Brian. Maybe you'll be a different version of Brian that you might be in everyday life, but you're not acting. You're not pretending to be someone entirely different.
People who do
not a scripted
unscripted reality programs oftentimes are promised you won't get a benefit today, but what you will get is the ability to monetize on this later on down the future. And the idea that after doing a television program, let's say 8 years after,
okay, I think you're going in a different direction than I was asking.
That somebody might say, seems like you should really show solidarity, doesn't hold a lot of sway.
No, I'm saying your role on hacking the system was not a SAG-AFTRA role because it was not an acting role.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I believe even doing that show was a violation of my agreement with AFTRA, SAG-AFTRA.
So it should have been, but it wasn't?
Because it wasn't a union show?
Because it wasn't a union show. Yeah, that's one of the rules that they have, is that you can't even do, and that's one of the things that they look the other way when
you can get
anybody promotes
waivers
something
and
on a
stuff too.
non-union show.
There's a whole thing about waivers where they're giving waivers to independent projects that are outside of the studio system. And some of the actors like Sarah Silverman were even getting upset about that because they're like, well, that's a way for the studios to get around things by creating, fake independent companies and then using their stuff later. And SAG was saying like, no, we're being very careful about that. So we're making sure we don't give waivers to companies that are going to do that. So there is a system to say like, yes, you're a union actor. You can work on a non-union thing in certain situations. And that's happening right now. But again, you have to get that waiver to do it.
Well, and again, hard power, soft power, I don't mind either of those, but I'm deeply uncomfortable with the aura power that we're seeing right now. I think implied you better step in line or else there'll be no Hollywood career for you.
I think it's something that folks will benefit from understanding is that there are people saying, I'm not doing this because of the strike, not because the union has told them they shouldn't do it, but because they're worried that people will think the union has told them they shouldn't do it. And so when you're forming your own opinions out there about, what people are doing or aren't doing, just remember, there's a lot of creators, a lot of small independent creators, and this isn't a euphemism for me, but there's a lot of people I've talked to who are turning down paid work, not because the union would have a problem with it, but because they're worried that people will get angry if they do it, because it would be perceived as crossing the picket line, being a scab, et cetera, even if it's not.
And maybe that's the difference. Maybe it's an age difference thing where it's like I suspect that if a good enough story requires Brian Brushwood to be part of it, just like they turned a blind eye to anybody going on The Daily Show, a non-union show, I suspect they would turn a blind eye to Brian Brushwood participating in the whatever thing. So I am in a privileged position of being able to go wherever the winds take me or whatever. But I can't even imagine what this looks like to somebody 25 years younger than me and how terrifying it must be if you have a popular TikTok channel or a YouTube Shorts channel or a Reels channel or whatever. And again, to be clear, hard power, soft power, I understand both of those. It's aura power that really has me a little bit fired up.
Yeah. That's why we have a Patreon.
Well, and again, that's a testament to just how privileged we are. Is that, we're now at a place, 14, 15 years into doing this show, we're able to just say, shrug, give us more money. I think the last time we demanded a raise was to $1.37. Then we reduced it to $1.36. You know what? in solidarity for independence, I now demand $1.38 an episode.
Wow.
Head on over to patreon.com.
So Brian and I have unionized, and we're now demanding $1.38. Yeah.
Patreon.com/Cordkillers is where you keep us. And by the way, these are important words: loud, live, and independent. Something that we would not be able to be if we were. Technically, one of us is, I guess, still in the union. Loud, live, and independent is what we want to be. Patreon.com/Cordkillers is where you can get your own RSS feed, get everything all at once, early access to our Spoilerin time, and of course, our After Talk segment.
Oh my gosh, and After Talk has been on fire lately. Like, if you're not listening to After Talk, you're missing out on a lot of secret plans and discussions and spoilery talk and all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance.
Not like real estate. It's all about location. Under surveillance.
The new world of bundles continues to take shape. As we lose the cable bundle, we're getting newer bundles where you've got more choice and more competition. Verizon reached a deal with YouTube and the NFL. So remember, YouTube got the NFL Sunday Ticket from the NFL. Verizon went and talked to both of them and said, we'd also like to offer NFL Sunday Ticket. So if you are a new or upgrading customer at Verizon for TV or LTE home internet, you can get NFL Sunday Ticket at no extra charge. Now, you have to buy a particular Android phone and get the Unlimited Plus plan, or go for a home internet plan, either Fios or LTE home. And you have to sign up for YouTube TV. That's going to cost you $73 a month. So that's what YouTube gets out of it. Existing Verizon customers who don't want to change plans can still get a discount. I think it's like a $100 discount off of the NFL Sunday Ticket, which is normally $449. If you're not a Verizon customer at all and you don't want to be, you can bundle YouTube TV, NFL Sunday Ticket, and Max together. That's coming, although they haven't given us a price yet.
That $449, Tom, is that per month or just a flat fee?
Seasonal. It's a season.
That's for the season, for the entire football season. So it's like 3-4 months, something like that.
What does it say about the state of things that I had to ask that question?
That you don't follow football? I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, I know you follow football,
world?
like the European soccer version because of Austin FC, but not the football like the NFL version.
Yeah.
But why? What did you think of that?
Well, I think that we're in the mushy middle, and yes, it is our obligation to report the up to the minute negotiations or whatever. But if I was going to place a bet on whether or not whatever this deal is would be around 1 year from now, I would take the under. There's no way that this is all the fluctuations that are happening in a post-cable environment.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to watch that because what Verizon's banking they get out of this, because I don't know how much they're paying, but Verizon is going to pay YouTube a fee for every one of their customers that takes advantage of this. And what they're going to get out of it is an ongoing subscription. So an ongoing LTE home subscription, an ongoing mobile phone subscription. And then next year, they're not going to get an NFL Sunday Ticket for free. But they're going to be hooked on it and they're going to want to pay it. And then Verizon's going to get a cut of that and YouTube gets all their money. So whether they keep allowing new or upgrading customers to do this or not will depend on how many people sign up and whether that money comes in. But you're right. This is the new experimentation with like, okay, we're not locked in. It used to be NFL Sunday Ticket was on DirecTV and that was it. You didn't get it anywhere else. There was 1 year that Sony offered it to PS4 customers, and it was like a weird partnership with DirecTV to do that. But mostly it was locked in. YouTube is much more open to be like, yeah, all right. Mobile carriers seem to want to bundle everything. Apple TV, Disney Plus, they're giving discounts on all kinds of stuff. Why wouldn't we do this? Especially if it gets people to sign up for YouTube TV at $73 a month, and we keep them, right?
If we could finally make this show about ourselves, 8 years ago, we were watching and reporting on the balkanization of, the dissolving of giant republics into fiefdoms and independent states. Now we're watching the consolidation of everything come together. And as somebody watching it from afar, I'm into all of this. But unfortunately, the sports language is one I don't speak very well.
Well, it's interesting because it's not consolidating into monoliths, though, right? Verizon is getting NFL Sunday Ticket, and there's no reason that T-Mobile couldn't also get this, but it's not leaving YouTube. So you as a customer suddenly have multiple ways that you could try to get NFL Sunday Ticket, where in the past, you had one. That was it.
Yeah.
One bundle. So, Disney Plus released a trailer for the next season of Loki, which returns October 6th. And Jonathan Majors was shown in the trailer if you're curious about that. But looks like I don't know. I'm more excited about this than I've been about some of these other Marvel series, to be honest. Looks good.
I liked Loki season 1 quite a bit. I like what I saw in the trailer for season 2. The one thing that gives me pause is, are they doing the thing where it's like season 2 is all about undoing what they did in season 1? And it looks an awful lot like that's what they're doing, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, but also...
And it also has to tie into all the movies, so that gets complicated.
Well, and we'll talk about that with Secret Invasion for sure later on.
HBO has approved The Righteous Gemstones for a 4th season. Of course, we will talk about the finale in Spoilerin time, our companion show. But I knew that it had been approved for a 4th season before I watched the finale, Brian. If I hadn't, though, that would have felt like the end of the series to me. So I'm very curious what they do in the 4th season.
I would have been shocked if that's how they wrapped it up. Like, everything is set for Gemstones forever and ever and ever. Like, there's not a single character that couldn't die or couldn't move away and then come back or whatever. For reasons that we'll talk about in Spoilerin time, I feel like one particular gemstone has been very clearly set up for an awesome journey.
And I when that particular gemstone did not have that particular incident addressed that in a more final way, I was like, well, that's season 4 then. Yeah.
Correct.
Only Murders in the Building returns to Hulu August 8th for its 3rd season. New trailer is out there, and well, they have an index card under Paul Rudd's photo that says Ben dead, and talk about him being dead. So I guess Paul Rudd's the victim.
Tom, is it unfair that I've not watched any of this show, but by the 3rd trailer of the 3rd season that I've seen, I'm already over it? Is that bad? Because it looks like they're playing with tropes that are
that would be a moral judgment, Brian.
At this point.
You don't like a show you haven't seen based on the trailers, is what you're telling me.
Well, first of all, it wouldn't be my first time. But second of all, what I'm saying is I loved. This is me reading trailers. It's not fair.
As someone, let me speak as someone who has watched both seasons of Only Murders in the Building and enjoyed them. I am looking at this and am wondering if it can hold my attention again. Especially because the murder does not appear to have happened in the building, which the first 2 definitely did. So we'll see. I'll let you know. It could just not be your style of show, because it's a very cozy murder mystery kind of show, and it's been very charming. So I imagine that they could charm me again, even giving me the same old tropes.
Yep.
But you don't have to watch it. It's fine.
No. I kind of do want to watch it.
You should watch season 1 then. You should not watch season 3.
From what I was, Bryce, you watched this, right?
I watched like an episode.
Okay, so from what I've seen from the outside, this is again on the periphery. Looks like they were riffing on Serial, and then they did another Serial thing or whatever. But seeing the trailer for the 3rd season, I'm like, am even I into somebody riffing on Serial at this point? I don't know.
But what I will say about season 2 is it was less. The first season was very much this has got some funny moments because it's riffing on Serial, but they did a great job of building up the characters so that in season 2, even though the podcast is ripping on Serial, they went to that well much less often, and started to bank on the fact that you had come to know these characters and wanted to see them interact. And I'm guessing they go even further with that in season 3.
Okay.
Netflix is getting into Korean reality shows now. Zombieverse sets celebrity contestants up to think they're doing a reality dating show, and then overruns it with zombies. And the contestants have to survive. It takes place all over Seoul, so it's in outdoor locations like busy intersections, amusement parks, convenience stores, and I'm pretty sure the folks know that they're not really zombies, but they're going to play along, and it is a surprise. This streams on Netflix starting August 8th.
Well, how meta is this? And I asked this, and then I watched the trailer, and I still didn't have an answer. Are they portraying this as though the core reality stars are meant to believe that they're being tricked into? For example, Darren Brown did a series or did a short run of BBC stuff where he tricked one person into believing a zombie apocalypse was actually happening. Or is this all meta, everybody's winking and nodding the entire way they go?
It feels to me like everybody is in on the joke, but that the narrative will be that they're not supposed to know whether it's real or not.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like the narrative will be, we set it up like a reality dating show and then we're unleashing zombies and they don't know whether it's real or not, right? I feel like that's the premise. But just from some of the outtakes, I'm like, these folks know they're not really scared.
So it's a bit like pro wrestling, where it's like, you're going to see some remarkable stuff. No, we do not expect you, man on the street interview, to say, "Oh, I believe that they believed those were zombies."
Yeah, and I think they I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if they even allow that into the narrative of people going like, this isn't real, right? And then maybe one of the celebrity contestants like, I think it is real, and they're laughing, and that could be part of it too. We'll see. But my guess is that the producers don't make it clear to the contestants on camera whether it's real or not.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about what we've had our eyes on. Brian, what you been watching?
Man, the kids have bullied me into a corner, and they are fired up to keep watching Detroiters. If you've seen I Think You Should Leave, then you are familiar with the comedy of Tim Robinson and of Sam Richardson. Sam Richardson is the protagonist of this story. Tim Robinson is the wild-eyed side character. This was a precursor, pre-pandemic, before I Think You Should Leave came out on Comedy Central. It is just so sweet and adorable. It's so good. They're like, the third episode, I believe, is titled Sam finds out everyone thinks he's finds out he's a prostitute or something like that. And the kids are loving it. I'm loving it. There's so much heart. If you vaguely like the comedy of I Think You Should Leave, but you just want a narrative that makes sense, this is the show for you. It's great.
Yeah. Cool. All right. You're putting the full court press on Detroiters. It's definitely on my list. I'm gonna have to find time to take a look at it. Where is it streaming again?
Paramount Plus.
Oh,
Paramount Plus. All right. I got my butt in a car in the middle of the week and went to my local theater that did not close. It was supposed to close and it did not close. So I'm very excited about that. But we saw Barbie, the Barbie movie, and I liked it more the more I watched it. I was a little worried after the first part. I don't know exactly how long. That it was a little heavy-handed, and I was not sure. I'm like, can I admit that I don't like Barbie? But as it went along, I realized what they were doing. I saw the narrative unfold. I saw that the earlier, what I had perceived as bluntness was kind of setting up things for the later, more subtle points. And in the end, I there were some parts that I really, really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the scene in the boardroom with Will Ferrell. I definitely enjoyed some of the Ken stuff in Barbie Land later on. And America Ferrera's impassioned speech that everybody talks about was very well delivered, very well done with some great points in it. So yeah, overall, positive on Barbie. What, Brian? I hear you saw it a second time.
I did, but before I chime in on that, Bryce asked us, me and Justin, if he had to pick one, would he watch Oppenheimer or Barbie? And Justin, I think, had a really good take, which is if you want to join the current conversation, watch Barbie. If you want to talk about it 5 years from now, watch Oppenheimer, which was more my take. Bryce, did you end up seeing it?
I did. I did end up seeing Barbie over the weekend, and I really liked it. And I think I probably have a very similar reaction to Tom in that I thought it was very, very good. There's a lot of really impressive production design, the sets and everything that they've got. The attention to detail is really amazing. I love seeing all of the TikToks where people are like, "Oh yes, these are actual. That was a real thing. Oh, these characters are these characters are the brats. These are actually people. They're actually putting the brats into the show or into the movie. So I there's some clunky bits, but I think it was really, really good.
Yeah, I loved it. In fact, I said to both of you guys that I thought Barbie was better than Oppenheimer, but then I watched Barbie a second time, and it is utterly delightful in the lyrical, like on the nose, the timing, the precision of all the surprises. It's great, 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 great. Once you're robbed of those, there's a little bit less there than I had thought on the first viewing. But I did enjoy it very, very much. It's great.
What motivated you to give it a second go?
My 10-year-old said, "Everyone in this family has seen Barbie except for me." And I said, "How about we go see it right now?" And she was like, "Okay." And then she kind of got bored at the same part that upon a second viewing, I kind of got bored. So there's a bit of pacing issues, but yeah.
I was thinking about the choice between Barbie and Oppenheimer, and I was thinking about the fact that it is not a real choice that you would ever have to make if they hadn't just been released on the same weekend, because they're entirely different movies that you watch for entirely different reasons. And it made me think, you know what a really good double feature would be? Barbie and Barbarella.
I have never seen Barbarella. Maybe that's something we should watch on
Maybe
Spoilerin
it
time.
is.
If the SAG-AFTRA will allow us to watch it and talk about
All right. Yeah. I don't know. We'll talk about that on After Talk. So make sure to become a patron to find out what we say. Meanwhile, Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
Hey, we got a pick from Yaru who writes, "Hey guys, I have an on the lookout suggestion. It's a new animated show called My Adventures with Superman. It's a cartoon that covers Superman, his first year in Metropolis. It centers around Clark, Jimmy Olsen, and Lois Lane as interns at the Daily Planet, and so they're trying to get established while also Clark is doing the Superman stuff." Yaru continues, "There's nothing inherently special about the concept, but the execution is great. It's funny, it doesn't take itself too seriously, and is lighthearted, but not to the point of being a parody or a deconstruction like the Harley Quinn show. And it's really, really funny. It's still very much a Superman story with some serious and heartfelt moments. Clark is adorable. The animation has an anime style to it. There's good fight choreography. A very glowing review for My Adventures with Superman, which mimics what I've seen other people's reactions to the show. But have you guys heard of this? The My Adventures with Superman?
I haven't watched any of it, but a good friend of mine was recommending it this weekend.
I do note that it's an Adult Swim joint, which makes me ask, my 3 daughters, 10, 15, 19 years old, which ones should I invite in to watch this? Appropriate for a 10-year-old?
I mean, it's a Superman show, so presumably I would think so. I mean,
but it's not like Harley Quinn, right? Where it's like, ooh, that's a little more adult.
It does not seem that way to me.
Okay.
I haven't seen it. I haven't had a chance to see it.
Okay, in their chat, they're saying 5 years old. Okay,
yeah,
so I'm going to guess we can make this work.
Yeah, it's Superman. Like, what is he going to do? Anyway, so that is that. There are, I think, 5 episodes out, and at the moment, they are coming out weekly on Adult Swim, and then they're on Max the next day. The final episode of this season should be August 25th, so thank you, Yaru, for that. If you've got something we should be on the lookout for, please email it to us. Our Email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. Thank you.
Woo woo.
I got so much going on these days, Brian.
Well, I mean, none of us can keep up. Look, everybody knows that Twitter, X is too busy doing a rave on their roof to annoy their neighbors. How is anybody possibly meant to keep up with all your shenanigans?
I think I need a new computer.
Well, I mean, if that's all you need, then just head on over to doghousesystems.com/rogue. Spell it right, ROGUE. Make sure you use promo code at Rogue at checkout. You'll get an SSD. You'll have a fine computer, top of the line customer service. But like, how are we supposed to follow up with what you're up to now that
So no, that gave me a great idea, because if someone were to get that new computer, it would be the perfect time for them to sign up for my newsletter. So, for example, last week on my newsletter at freetomnewsletter.com, I announced that I'm teaching a course on podcasting. I also put a very cute picture of my dog in a heart monitor vest that made him look like a special agent. But I also announced that I'm teaching a seminar. It's like a 90-minute seminar on how to create a great podcast. Now, I have to say, I think all the slots are sold out at this point. But if you don't want to miss out on the next time I do it, or when I announce how you can get the on-demand video recording of the seminar, then freetomnewsletter.com. Doesn't cost you anything to sign up for that. Go check it out.
Tom, what platform this is of interest to me. What platform are you using to do this?
The internet.
Well,
I'm not using like Udemy or going through something like that. Yeah.
Is it a secret?
I mean, it's not secret, but to prevent people from trying to get into the class who haven't paid for it.
Got it.
I prefer to say, sign up for the class, and then I will tell you how we're going to get it. But yeah, it'll be over the internet. It'll be video. It'll be me talking to people about how to create a rundown, how to do management of talking and interviews and stuff like that. So it's about the content. It's about creating the content of the show.
When is this happening?
August. You don't remember. Put
Thursday, August 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern,
Yes.
5 p.m. Pacific.
All right.
Thank you. And again, I think the slots are all filled. So I'm kind of less interested in getting people to sign up for the class at this point.
You got to rub it in their face that they missed
the newsletter so that you don't miss the next one. Exactly.
Oh, okay.
freetomnewsletter.com. Don't miss it. Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
Comcast announced that Peacock added 2 million subscribers last quarter to bring it to 24 million. Revenue grew 85% on the year for Peacock, but it also spent a lot more and increased losses. Price of Peacock goes up August 17th by $1 for the entry level and $2 for the ad-free plan. We mentioned that previously on Cordkillers. And whenever Comcast does their earnings, it's always notable how their cable and internet businesses are doing. TV business lost 543,000 subscribers. They've stopped trying to blame it on the housing market, which is what they were doing like 10 years ago. And they just like chalk it up to like, yep, we lost 500,000 subscribers. That's the way it goes. But broadband lost 19,000. So I think that's a bigger concern.
And Netflix will replace its downloads tab with a My Netflix, which it describes as a one-stop shop tailored to you. The tab will still show your downloads, but also adds shows that you've given a thumbs up to, movies that you've saved to My List, trailers you've watched, reminders for upcoming releases, and a list of in-progress and recently completed viewings. The tab has already arrived on Netflix iOS and will come to Android in early August.
Roku reported its revenue grew 11% last quarter. Ad sales also grew 11%. Company added 1.9 million active accounts to reach 73.5 million. Average revenue per user, though, fell 7% on the year. So not making as many dollars per user, so room for improvement and growth there. But bringing in the ad sales in what's considered a bad ad market, Brian.
And again, back to Netflix. If we could finally talk about Netflix for a change, they posted a job for a machine learning platform product manager with an annual salary of between $300,000 and $900,000. This is an AI whisperer they're looking for. The job is described as using machine learning to, quote, create great content. Netflix is also advertising for a technical director for generative AI for its gaming studio with an annual salary of up to $650,000.
Are you going to apply, Brian?
You use that as though it's future tense.
Have you applied, Brian?
What are you, a cop?
I have to tell you if I am, and I'm not. So, 300 to 900,000. Look at that. It seems like a livable salary in California.
Real quick, extension. We used to do this. I'm going to call it an extension, a 1-minute extension. Is this that they have a desperate need for this position, or are they maybe pouring fuel on the fire of the WGA strike? Because a lot of that has to do with AI stuff.
Everybody wants to see a conspiracy everywhere. I know this became a big football of like, look at them. They're paying the machine learning person a ridiculous salary when they won't pay their actors. And I'm not going to argue. That's a lot more than what most actors are going to make, certainly more than the writers are going to make. I don't know. I don't know if it seemed we tend to overestimate how insidious a company is going to be. Having worked inside of companies and been on the other end of like people saying, well, the reason CNET's doing that is because blah, blah, blah. And knowing like, yeah, it has nothing to do that. Companies are way less competent and way less good at planning things than we all tend to assume. So my guess would be no, this was not created just as a piece of leverage. But I would say the probability is not zero.
I will sprinkle. I think you're right. It's like, at some point, I can imagine somebody saying, you realize everyone's going to accuse. It's like, whatever, free publicity, throw confetti into the air. But also, it's like, not for nothing. If you've messed around with AI, there is an art to teasing out good results from an AI.
Yeah, I would say that the likeliest thing that happened here is the person who's in charge of hiring for this said, what do you want? And they said, we need a person to do this. It's a thing we need to do. And it's a thing they really need to do and really want to do and had nothing to do with union negotiations. And then the person in charge of hiring said, great, it looks like a competitive salary would be in this range. So put that in. Like I imagine it's not more complicated than that. Yeah. In fact, they probably didn't think and probably were slightly surprised when this thing blew up into a big deal, because when you're involved in a department and you're hiring, you're not thinking about the wider world with every single thing you do.
Agreed.
Soccer great Lionel Messi has played 2 games now. Actually, it might be more than 2 games at this point in the U.S. Major League Soccer League for Inter Miami. But Apple says that was enough to make last week have the 3 most watched MLS matches of the season. So people are signing up and not just watching Messi. They're watching more Major League Soccer games, which is what MLS wants. And Apple wants.
I would love to see an academic breakdown of just how much of the popularity of Major League Soccer, football in the United States is directly attributable to Ted Lasso. It's really remarkable to me.
If I may point out, the story here isn't about U.S. consumption. It's about international consumption. Major League Soccer is very popular in the U.S., and it got a little more popular with Messi, of course. But the bigger news is that people outside of the U.S. started signing up to watch on Apple TV Plus, which they hadn't really been because, I mean, no disrespect to MLS, but it's not considered to be as high level of a league as Bundesliga or Premier, et cetera. So the big news here is that I almost said real soccer fans, but like long-time soccer fans, big soccer fans, internationally are taking an interest in the MLS, and not just in the Messi games, but kind of sampling other things to see what it's like.
Yeah, on the flip side, I know that, convenience, fidelity, all of that stuff. It's like, I'm sure that story was as interesting as it ever was. But when a major platform starts to push, worldwide football in front of you, it becomes easier to get into it.
Daniel J. Newman wonders if people are just accidentally watching the other games because they thought Messi was going to be in them. I don't know. Could be that too.
Could be.
We have no idea.
Could be.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the dispatches from the front. Got another email from Yaru, this one about Brian's issues with Oppenheimer. Yaru says, I like the movie, but it's probably my 7th favorite Nolan movie. And Nolan is my favorite director. About the whole white light thing, in the movie, the white flash was not seen in the practical explosion, but was cleverly shown during the start by showing cuts of a very bright white light off people hiding or far off distance shots before the camera turned to the actual orange explosion. I will agree the actual scene was underwhelming. I think it was disappointing because the footage felt zoomed in. The real Trinity footage was impressive, not because of the explosion shape, but the sense of scale you got when looking at the background. I don't see the issue with the won't someone tell the truth scene. Dude has been politically and unfairly railroaded, and in an era where many people lost reputations and jobs, even with WikiLeaks with communism, this feels exactly what someone would say if they're in the middle of a sham trial or hearing. I recall Nolan has gone on record to say that the color sections are told from Oppenheimer's subjective point of view, meaning it may not be totally accurate, but the black and white sections are told from an objective view, meaning they're trying to be 100% trustworthy. Anyways, not trying to change Brian's mind, just bringing some of my opinion on the stuff he's criticizing. When you don't like something, you don't like it. I love Nolan, but I didn't like The Dark Knight. So even if I liked Oppenheimer better than Brian did, I can relate.
Yeah, my only pushback on that would be that the moment when he whispers, "Won't somebody tell the story?" just reeked of Oscar bait. That was not a thing that I think Oppenheimer wanted the world to hear. I think it's a thing Nolan wanted to hear the Academy hear, basically.
And then Mark wrote in and said, "Love your show. Keep up the awesome work. Long time, first time. I just finished Secret Invasion, and I have to say, that last episode really brought down the entire series. It's a story that I could write in 7th grade. This series relegated science to be the equivalent of magic, got the DNA, we got all the powers because of the battlefield from which it was scraped. There's some spoilery stuff in here. He says, now I know this story had to deviate from the source material. Not sure if you knew this, but this is based off a comic book. Wink, wink, because Brian has brought that up a couple times. But what they came up with, in Mark's opinion, was just downright.
We'll talk more about this in Spoilerin time. I didn't hate the last episode nearly as much as most people will think I did. I actually liked it more than many of the other episodes.
All right. Well, for more on that, please check out Spoilerin Time. You can find that at our website, cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live at twitch.tv/Night Attack, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and we will reckon with you about the Cord Killers next week.
Hey, Tom Merritt, what's going on?
I'm just hanging out here watching this scroll go by. What are you doing?
Trying to set up a bit where we thank our beautiful, beautiful patrons, all these wonderful names.
I'm sorry, I'm too distracted looking at these beautiful, beautiful patron names going by. Look at that one. I mean, if you wanted to be one of these people, patreon.com/cordkillers would be the place to go.
I mean, they're scratching our itch, like, because we're addicted.
As long as it's consensual, like,
we're addicted to their money.
And love. Might as well face it.
Well, God damn it.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.